Hi, I'm going to try to explain what a capital asset pricing model is, which is usually known as CAPM. Let's start by first breaking the terms down to take an overview. Capital here is referring to a capital market. Capital market is any market where securities are traded. Security could be an equity, it could be a bond, it could be a debenture, which is issued by any corporate entity or government in order to raise money to conduct their activities. Asset pricing model. A model is always a simplified version of the real world, which involves a lot of assumptions and approximations. So here the asset pricing model is going to price these securities which are traded in the security markets. Okay. So CAPM is denoted by a very simple equation here, which you see in red, where the LHS is nothing but the expected return on a security, on any security denoted by I here. Okay, it is now divided into two parts, a risk-free return that you receive and the other is risk premium. Risk-free return, any return that you receive on a very safe investment that you make. It could be simply keeping your money in your bank accounts and receiving certain return. Also, it could be buying a government bond, say 10-year treasury bond, and if you're holding it till redemption, the return you receive is the risk-free rate of return. Another component here is RM. Now this is the actual return that is received in the market, which is usually measured by using the indices. For example, you know, the S&P 500 or the Nifty 50. So it is usually the observed actual return in the market. Then is another important segment of risk premium is beta. Now beta is a measure of the market risk. It is only and only the measure of systematic risk. It's different from volatility, which is sigma. It is going to be specific for every stock, for every share, for every bond. The market risk is going to be different. It can be calculated using this formula, which is covariance between the return on a particular security and the market return divided by the variance of the market return. Beta equal to 1 means the stock, if the market has been moving like this, the stock or the security is moving in a similar way. So they have same movements. Beta, if it is greater than 1, that means the stock is extremely volatile. Beta less than 1 implies it's not so volatile. It's not going to respond as quickly as market does. The last point, this security I that we're referring to, it could be one single security or it could be a combination of securities. Like you could also be looking at a portfolio of securities. Okay. Before moving ahead, let's revise a few concepts that form the basis of CAPM. Talking about what an efficient frontier is, first of all, I'll take you to another sheet and explain it with a diagram. If this is a graph where y-axis is the return, x-axis represents the risk, by plotting expected return against the level of risk, we can obtain a graph here. Efficient, if we talk about efficient frontier is nothing but a set of efficient portfolios. Now what an efficient portfolio is? An efficient portfolio is a portfolio with the most desirable risk return combination, that is a higher return and lower variance cannot be found anywhere else. For example, if I'm talking about a portfolio here, if I'm here, I'm receiving the level of, this is the level of return here, expected return, and this is the risk that I will be facing. I have a portfolio here which gives me the same level of risk and gives a higher expected return. So of course this portfolio is preferred over this one, which is why this is an efficient portfolio, this is inefficient. Okay, which is why if I see any portfolio below this point, it will have a corresponding portfolio bearing the same risk but giving a higher expected return. So efficient portfolio is this part, only and only this part. Okay. So this area marked in red is the efficient frontier of specifically the risky securities. Now, if in the market there exists a risk-free asset as well, which is marked here, the return from the risk-free asset is marked here, and if I'm trying to draw a straight line from here which is tangent to the efficient frontier of risky assets, this tangency point here, this is the market portfolio. This is the most optimal portfolio of risky assets. So straight line is the efficient frontier of risk-free asset, and the hyperbola is the efficient frontier of risky assets. Going back, let's talk about what is beta. I explained here, beta is a measure of the systematic risk. What is systematic risk? It is any kind of risk that impacts the entire market. For example, recession. It will impact the entire market, not one particular company. Specific risk is something which is particularly going to impact one company. What is a risky asset? It is any asset which has certain level of default risk in it, whereas a risk-free asset is, if held to the maturity, it is not going to default. It has a low expected return, but it also has a very low risk of defaulting. Like I said above, example would be a government bond. Talking about what a market portfolio is, which holds major importance under CAPM, it is a portfolio of all the risky assets in the market, all the risky assets. Now this, under this portfolio, every security is going to hold, the proportion of every security is going to be equal to its market capitalization, or you can say in simpler words, the weight of every security in the market portfolio is going to be according to its total presence in the market. Since it has all the market risk, all the risky securities in the market, it is subject only to the market risk. Another point to remember, under CAPM, when you look at the equation, from this equation what we see is that all investors are going to hold some combination of a risk-free asset and market portfolio of risky assets. So that is what CAPM tries to tell. Now moving on to the important results under CAPM. Security market line and capital market line are the two results, most important results under CAPM. Starting with SML. If you look at the equation, it is suggesting that the expected return on a security can be expressed as a linear function of its systematic risk, that is beta. Now this equation or SML is specifically used to determine the expected return on any, it could be any security in the market, based on the market risk it faces. The security, it could, or the portfolio of securities that you're using, it does not have to be efficient necessarily. Now let's start by plotting the market portfolio that I mentioned in the previous slide on this graph. Now y-axis, it is going to denote the expected return on the security, whereas x-axis is going to denote beta, because under SML we're only considering market risk. Let's say this is the RF is the risk-free rate in the market. Now drawing a straight line from here, let us say this point M is the market portfolio. Simultaneously plotting the market return and beta. The beta for market portfolio is always going to be 1. Now SML has a very important use to the investors. It is generally used as a benchmark. If this is the SML, let us take an example. Now, for example, the return on a security is expected to be this much, which is it exceeds what is predicted by SML. This simply means that this particular security is underpriced, so you try to take an advantage of that, so you buy that securities. On the other hand, if the return on a security is expected to be less than what is predicted by SML, you think it is overpriced at the moment and you try to sell it. Now, talking about what capital market line is, it is created by introducing the risk-free asset as part of the portfolio. Looking at the CML equation, it is also used to calculate the expected return on a security or a portfolio of securities. Unlike SML, CML is only going to consider the efficient portfolios. So let's first try to create the market portfolio on the graph. Let's say this is the risk-free rate. Now, because it is only going to take into account efficient portfolios, we are going to create the efficient frontiers. A straight line from here depicts the efficient frontier for risk-free asset, and the curvy efficient frontier depicts the risky assets. Now, the point of tangency here, as we have seen before, under CAPM, this point of tangency, assuming that all the CAPM assumptions, which I'm going to talk about in a while, hold, this tangency portfolio becomes a market portfolio. Now, what CAPM suggests is that all the investors are going to choose a portfolio on this CML depending on its risk appetite. Somebody who is risk averse is probably going to stay here or here or here. Somebody who's less risk averse might as well stay close to market portfolio or somewhere here or here. Okay, so CML is basically looking at the overall risk and return. As risk increases, your expected return is also going to increase. Now, the major difference between SML and CML, what we have seen is, SML is only looking at the market risk, whereas CML is going to look at the total risk. SML is in a way a special version of CML, and that all the portfolios on SML are not efficient, but on CML they are. Now, to understand CAPM better, I have introduced a very easy numerical example. We are given expected return on two securities and we are also given the betas. We have to derive an equation for SML. We know that the equation of SML is given by this. So, with the given data, I have tried to fit in two equations and we're going to try to solve them simultaneously. You can pause the video here and try to solve it yourself. On solving, we know that RM and RF are going to be 9% and 3% respectively. This implies our SML, that is expected return on any security, can be denoted as 3% plus beta I multiplied by 6%, which is RM minus RF. Moving on, we have to calculate the expected return on another asset which has a beta of 2 and it lies on the SML, the equation we have just derived. So, I need the expected return on asset 3. I get 3% plus 2 into 6%. This gives us 15%. This is the expected return. Third part, explain whether investor should buy or sell a security which has an average return of 16% and a beta of 2. If the beta is 2, we just derived that are what the expected return is supposed to be. So, from part B, we know that expected return on the security with beta 2 is 15%. Now what I had mentioned before, if the actual return on a security is greater than what is predicted by SML, this implies it is cheaper, so you should buy it. So that is the basic use of SML. Now, assumptions that are made about the CAPM, without which the theory of CAPM would not exist. There are assumptions about investors and there are assumptions about the market. Let's talk about investors first. First assumption is all the investors in the market, they have the same 1 period horizon. That is, everybody is looking at the either like 1 week or 1 month, which is obviously not appropriate. Let's, for example, a pension fund is probably going to look at 20 years, 15 years, but a day trader is going to look at 1 day or a week or a month. All the investors have homogeneous expectations. That is, everybody is looking at the same data, making the same predictions, having the same expectations about how the market is going to perform. They have the same estimates of return on a security, the risk and the covariances between assets. Investors, all the investors can borrow or lend at the same risk-free rate. Now, the assumption 2 and assumption 3 means that all the investors in the market are exposed to the same efficient frontier for the risky assets as well as the risk-free asset. Short selling is allowed. Short selling is basically selling a security which investor does not hold. This is done by holding a trading account with the broker. So you borrow a security from the broker and you sell it, and when you close the trade in the future, you sell it back to the broker. About the market, we are first of all we're saying there are no transaction costs, which in practice is not true. Of course, you're paying buying and selling fees to the broker. You are assuming that there are no taxes paid. You can assume that you can buy a fraction of a share. That is, instead of buying one whole share, you can buy a fraction of it. Then investors are price takers and investors are perfectly informed about the prices. There is no single big buyer in the market to influence the prices. They are accepting the price, whatever it is. They're not going to influence it by their actions. And everybody in the market is equally informed. They have the same data, everybody has the same information.